Hi everyone, I'm Sarah and this is BudgetSew, where we create stylish, fashionable looks as inexpensively as possible. Today we're doing a sew-along to pattern 1931, this single twist knot turban style headband by Trish Newbery. If you like this video, please subscribe to BudgetSew and follow me on social media at BudgetSew. Let's get started! My first step was to fold the fabric in half lengthwise with the right sides together. Once the fabric was aligned, I pinned along the long raw edges to keep everything from shifting while I sewed. Taking a few extra moments to pin carefully helps ensure the seams stay even and the finished headband comes out looking neat and professional. I love projects like this because they're beginner friendly, they sew up really fast, and they make handmade outfits feel a little more polished and coordinated. This is also a fantastic project if you have leftover knit fabric from other sewing projects. You only need a small amount of fabric, so it's a great stash buster and a really satisfying afternoon sew. Next, I headed over to my Singer Fashion-Made sewing machine and stitched along the long edge, removing the pins as I sewed. I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance to create a narrow tube. For this project, I chose a beautiful soft blue knit from Len's Mill. The fabric has a smooth surface and a comfortable stretch, making it ideal for accessories and everyday garments. The color is a cheerful blue that reminds me of a clear summer day. It's bright enough to add a pop of color to an outfit, but still soft and versatile enough to coordinate with lots of other colors. I picked up 7.05 meters of this fabric during Len's Mill 85% off fabric sale and paid just $4.87 for the entire piece. That's exactly the kind of budget-friendly fabric find I love. The knit is easy to work with, comfortable to wear, and I have enough fabric left for several more projects. The pattern recommends knits with at least 40% stretch, which helps the headband fit comfortably without feeling too tight. This kind of project is perfect for cotton jersey, cotton lycra, rib knit, lightweight sweater knits, or leftover t-shirt fabric. You really don't need much fabric at all, which makes this a super budget-friendly project. This would also be really cute in floral knits, velvet stretch fabric, athletic knit, holiday prints, or a matching fabric from a top or dress project. Next, turn the headband right side out. Then I press the fabric flat, making sure the scalloped edges were lined up evenly. Position the seam so that it runs down the center of one side of the headband. This means one side will have a visible center seam, while the other side will be completely smooth with no seam showing. Taking a moment to line up everything neatly will help the twist detail look crisp and symmetrical in the finished headband. While pressing the headband, I used my tailor's clapper to set the crease. A tailor's clapper is a simple wooden pressing tool that helps hold the heat and steam in the fabric as it cools. This creates a sharper, flatter finish and helps the seam stay crisp. It's one of those old-fashioned sewing tools that really makes a difference, especially when you want a professional-looking result. I bought this tailor's clapper at Value Village. It's one of those sewing tools that I wasn't specifically looking for, but when I spotted it, I knew it would be useful. I love finding quality sewing tools secondhand whenever I can. Not only does it save money, but older sewing tools are often very well made. For this step, I use my Panasonic 360-degree Freestyle cordless steam iron. One of the things I love about this iron is the cordless design. Since there isn't a cord dragging across the ironing board, it's easy to move the iron in any direction and press smaller projects like this headband. Because I was sewing within knit fabric, I chose a stretch needle and a stretch stitch for this project. Using the right needle can make a big difference when sewing knits, because it's designed to slide between the fibers instead of piercing them, which helps prevent skip stitches and damage the fabric. The stretch stitch allows the seam to stretch along with the fabric, making it stronger and not pop when the headband is worn. It's a simple adjustment, but it helps create a more durable and professional looking finish. With the headband pressed, I flipped it over so that the seam was facing down against my work surface. Then I folded the headband in half, matching the short ends together. The next step creates a signature twist. I shifted the top layer slightly to one side until the curved scallop edges lined up with each other. Once the curves were matched, I folded the top scallop over toward the center. Then I folded the bottom scallop underneath, creating a layered shape that locks the twist into place. At first, this step can look a little confusing, but once the curves are aligned, the folds naturally fall into position. Back at my sewing machine, I stitched across the layered scalloped edges to secure the headband twist in place. This is the seam that holds those folds together and creates the finished headband shape. If you're using a serger for this step, you may find that the multiple layers of fabric become a little bulky, especially with a thicker knit. If your serger starts to struggle to feed the fabric through smoothly or skip stitches, don't be afraid to switch over to your regular sewing machine. A stretch stitch or narrow zigzag stitch works beautifully for this seam and often handles the bulk better than a serger. That's one of the nice things about sewing knits. There's usually more than one way to get a great result. Once the seam was sewn, the hard part was done, and my headband was complete. The twisted front detail was visible, and I could see the finished shape of the headband. Here is the finished headband. The look, I'm wearing the top from McCall's 7869 and New Look 6203 pants. The earrings were in a Ziploc bag full of jewelry that I bought for $5 at a church Christmas bazaar. Enjoyed sewing the single twist knot turban style headband by Trish Newbery with me. Subscribe to Budget Sew for more great videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah and this is Budget Sew, where we create stylish, fashionable looks as inexpensively as possible. Today, we're doing a sew-along to pattern 1931, the single twist knot turban style headband by Trish Newbery. If you like this video, please subscribe to Budget Sew and follow me on social media at Budget Sew. Let's get started. My first step was to fold the fabric in half lengthwise with the right sides together. Once the fabric was aligned, I pinned along the long raw edges to keep everything from shifting while I sewed. Taking a few extra moments to pin carefully helps ensure the seams stay even and the finished headband comes out looking neat and professional. I love projects like this because they're beginner friendly, they sew up really fast, and they make handmade outfits feel a little more polished and coordinated. This is also a fantastic project if you have leftover knit fabric from other sewing projects. You only need a small amount of fabric, so it's a great stash buster and a really satisfying afternoon sew. Next, I headed over to my Singer Fashion-Made sewing machine and stitched along the long edge, removing the pins as I sewed. I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance to create a narrow tube. For this project, I chose a beautiful soft blue knit from Lens Mill. The fabric has a smooth surface and a comfortable stretch, making it ideal for accessories and everyday garments. The color is a cheerful blue that reminds me of a clear summer day. It's bright enough to add a pop of color to an outfit, but still soft and versatile enough to coordinate with lots of other colors. I picked up 7.05 meters of this fabric during Lens Mill 85% off fabric sale and paid just $4.87 for the entire piece. That's exactly the kind of budget-friendly fabric find I love. The knit is easy to work with, comfortable to wear, and I have enough fabric left for several more projects. The pattern recommends knits with at least 40% stretch, which helps the headband fit comfortably without feeling too tight. This kind of project is perfect for cotton jersey, cotton lycra, rib knit, lightweight sweater knits, or leftover t-shirt fabric. You really don't need much fabric at all, which makes this a super budget-friendly project. This would also be really cute in floral knits, velvet stretch fabric, athletic knit, holiday prints, or a matching fabric from a top or dress project. Next, turn the headband right side out. Then I press the fabric flat, making sure the scalloped edges were lined up evenly. Position the seam so that it runs down the center of one side of the headband. This means one side will have a visible center seam, while the other side will be completely smooth with no seam showing. Taking a moment to line up everything neatly will help the twist detail look crisp and symmetrical in the finished headband. While pressing the headband, I used my tailor's clapper to set the crease. A tailor's clapper is a simple wooden pressing tool that helps hold the heat and steam in the fabric as it cools. This creates a sharper, flatter finish and helps the seam stay crisp. It's one of those old-fashioned sewing tools that really makes a difference, especially when you want a professional-looking result. I bought this tailor's clapper at Value Village. It's one of those sewing tools that I wasn't specifically looking for, but when I spotted it, I knew it would be useful. I love finding quality sewing tools secondhand whenever I can. Not only does it save money, but older sewing tools are often very well made. For this step, I use my Panasonic 360-degree Freestyle cordless steam iron. One of the things I love about this iron is the cordless design. Since there isn't a cord dragging across the ironing board, it's easy to move the iron in any direction and press smaller projects like this headband. Because I was sewing with a knit fabric, I chose a stretch needle and a stretch stitch for this project. Using the right needle can make a big difference when sewing knits, because it's designed to slide between the fibers instead of piercing them, which helps prevent skip stitches and damage the fabric. The stretch stitch allows the seam to stretch along with the fabric, making it stronger and not pop when the headband is worn. It's a simple adjustment, but it helps create a more durable and professional looking finish. With the headband pressed, I flipped it over so that the seam was facing down against my work surface. Then I folded the headband in half, matching the short ends together. The next step creates a signature twist. I shifted the top layer slightly to one side until the curved scallop edges lined up with each other. Once the curves were matched, I folded the top scallop over toward the center. Then I folded the bottom scallop underneath, creating a layered shape that locks the twist into place. At first, this step can look a little confusing, but once the curves are aligned, the folds naturally fall into position. Back at my sewing machine, I stitched across the layered scalloped edges to secure the headband twist in place. This is the seam that holds those folds together and creates the finished headband shape. If you're using a serger for this step, you may find that the multiple layers of fabric become a little bulky, especially with a thicker knit. If your serger starts to struggle to feed the fabric through smoothly or skip stitches, don't be afraid to switch over to your regular sewing machine. A stretch stitch or narrow zigzag stitch works beautifully for this seam and often handles the bulk better than a serger. That's one of the nice things about sewing knits. There's usually more than one way to get a great result. Once the seam was sewn, the hard part was done, and my headband was complete. The twisted front detail was visible, and I could see the finished shape of the headband. Here is the finished headband. To complete the look, I'm wearing the top from McCall's 7869 and New Look 6203 pants. The earrings were in a Ziploc bag full of jewelry that I bought for $5 at a church Christmas bazaar. I hope you enjoyed sewing the single twist knot turban style headband by Trish Newbery with me. Subscribe to BudgetSew for more great videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.